Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Skippy and welcome to another video. Right then, time to build the wings, 3 of them. So if you haven't seen already, part 1 I built the stabilizer, elevators and rudder, and that's all moving. So watch part 1 if you want to see how I did that. Part 2 of the video then is building the wings, putting in the moving ailerons. I haven't decided still which servos I'm going to use, be it the linear or the small micro servos. The good thing with it being a laser cut kit, all the ribs are already nicely cut, so all I need to do now is pop them out. So rather than bore you with me popping them out, I'll get on with that and then get back to it. So here we have all the wing components popped out, sanded down, plenty of ribs. The trailing edges, obviously the leading edges will be in the box that I need to trim. Now, contrary to what I said in part 1 video, I said I'd use just this flat piece for the elevator because that's what it looked like when I looked on the plan. However, when I looked closely, actually you can see the elevator was much deeper, so actually into the ribs. So that would involve gluing this together and then building up the ribs, yes, onto the elevators. And when I look at my larger model, I can see that there. So I think to try and have some semi-scale from a distance, I will try and work out how to do that and build up the aileron larger using the tips of the ribs. So to start with on the wings, I'm just going to build the center and lower wings first, get those finished. Then I can concentrate on just building the upper wing and hopefully get some more scale-like ailerons on both sides. But yeah, popping that out took a bit longer than expected, but quite satisfying now it's done. Okay, top tip before you start cutting the wood is just check which of these strips of bolts have fit neatly in the gaps on the ribs, because some fit a lot easier than others. So I've just paired them up. So the 2 at the front there will be for the leading edge, 2 will be for actual ribs, same on that side, and the same on this side. Obviously you don't want them too loose, but there's no point having them too wide either. If you can hear some purring, I apologise, that's the cat come to join me. So yeah, so I've sorted it all out. I'm going to start with the lower wing. Oh, I forget cat. Start with the lower wing, get that done, middle wing, then the upper wing obviously because I need to work out how to do the ailerons. So we'll get going. So I fitted all the ribs in. I haven't put the leading edge on just yet. I'm going to do that next. But just if you haven't done so already, you don't need all the ribs. So you can save yourself quite a few there. So it's probably worth counting them before you pop them all out. Save a few minutes here and there if it's the same on all the wings. But there you go, so that's the first bit of the wing done. All fitted in nicely. Now I just need to sand the tips of those ribs and then glue the leading edge on. So before building the centre wing, obviously I'll put the greaseproof paper on. It's worth noting this section here, the ribs need to be built up so the 3 of those fitted together. That's so that when they fit in the wing there, that's obviously where the wing spire will go through. So I'm going to take those bits of wood, glue them together before I get on with everything else, and then they'll be ready to go as and when I get to that part of the wing. Well, here's a first. So the wing build's going well. That's the first wing of the centre section. I was about to start the second, but I just wanted to put P4 on there. P4 being that piece like that. I couldn't find it in the bits of wood that I'd cut out. Then when I started looking, I thought, oh, where are the M1 bits? And I can't find them. Looking on the kit, the wood, I've got an A, B, 3 C's and a D. Now if you remember earlier I said we seem to have a lot more ribs than I need, and I'm wondering, did this pack have an extra C sheet in when actually there should be an E sheet? Because annoyingly also what I've now noticed, I only have one half of the fuselage. There's one section there, but it's only half. So I don't have the other halves. So that's really annoying. So what I'm going to have to do is work out, well, I'm going to turn this over in a minute and see if I've got the template so that I can create these parts myself. But how annoying is that? I've never, of all the models I've made, never had a Guillow's kit come up short with the components. And whilst I bought it on eBay, it was a sealed packet, so it's from factory. So I know the person that sold it to me hasn't done any dodgy deals. So yeah, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but that's certainly a first for me. So yeah, they've given me 3 C's, and I'm assuming I've got a D, another D missing or an E missing. So very annoying. So that's going to slow things down. Well, the good news is when you turn it over, you've got the ribs here. So these are the M1 ribs that I'm missing. I'm going to have to make a complete set of the formers, because as we can see here, I only have one set. But annoyingly, there is no P4 template anywhere. So not on any of those that I can see. So the only way I think I can get P4, as I'm hoping, is that's it there. So I'm hoping that this on here is the actual size. So if I cut that out, that'll be the size. But I've never had that happen before. That is really annoying. And I've just checked, nowhere in the Guillow's kits does it actually have a sheets part so that you can check before you start building. So that, yeah, how was I to know that there was one missing? Perhaps in hindsight, thinking that there were 3 C's, that would have been an indicator, but then what would I do? This kit's quite old. How would I get the spare parts? Have anybody else had this issue? What do Guillow's do? Bizarre. So when you cycle into town thinking you can find the bolts you need for your kit, and you end up getting this wet, and your bike's soaking, your feet are wet, and it's still very cold outside. The shop didn't have it, and then the other shop that I thought had it, or does have it, is closed today. So slightly annoying, so I'll have to rummage through my scraps and see what I can find. Okay, in my eagerness to get on with this build, you notice I've jumped a bit of a step. So rather than getting on with the wing, which I should have been doing had I been able to get the wood sheet that I needed today, I used some scraps and I've made the M parts for the undercarriage wing. So I'm going to build that first. So apologies, to show you how I made the M1s out of scrap balsa. I've taken some photos as I've gone along. I pinned it together so that I could sand it down and make sure that all the grooves when I cut them in were in the same place. So yeah, I shall get on with that now. To make the part P4, which is obviously on sheet 6, which for some reason this kit didn't come with. It came with 3 sheet 3/4s, so a sheet 6 or sheet E was missing. I'm going to make a template like I did for this, which was the angle for the use on the underwing or the little wing. I'm going to make a template using the greaseproof paper, draw onto there, then draw onto the bolster and cut it out. Right, after a longer break than anticipated, finished the right hand middle wing. Now I'm going to build the left hand middle wing. Okay, as we're building the wings, and before I start the top wing, you note on the plan it talks about reinforcing the wing where the struts go. Obviously on the DL1 there's only the one strut, which is this one. The centering is quite nice because it fits through there, and that's a perfect fit, so 3 ribs. rather than doing the balsa strip like that, what I find or have found is that the width of the strut is wider than the width of the ribs, so it actually sticks over the edge, and when you put those ribs in, you then have to fine tune or lightly sand to fit it in. So my top tip is, using the spare ribs that I have, I've created a pocket similar to the middle wing, which when you take the strut, you can just carefully slot it in like that, and it stays upright. What I've done is cut the ribs. I've only glued the rib, if I can show you, onto that spar there. I haven't glued it at the ends, which gives it some flexibility. So when I come to slot it in, when it's covered, it will do. That fits nicely on that side. And if we come across to this side, again, it just slots in nicely and it stays upright. So that's my top tip. Use a rib, or one rib either side, trim down to create the slot, and that's what I'll do on the upper wing as well. Because what I found with the SE5A, that was a weak point. The struts did come disconnected if you have a heavy landing. So I'll do the same on the top wing. Building the top wing, same as the other two wings, using the trailing edge, the main spar, and then putting the ribs in, and I'm attaching the leading edge afterwards. Now obviously I want to make the ailerons for this wing. Originally I thought I'd just use that as the aileron, but actually I want to try and make it a little bit more scale, as I said, much like my larger model there. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting trailing edge here. I can then work out how much shorter I need to make these ribs. I'll then glue those ribs on, attach a backing plate, and then this will have the bits that are cut off these ribs attached here to give it a bit of the slope, the shape. This obviously will glue onto there, and then we will fit or make the ailerons as such on both sides that way. Probably easier to do the photos as I go, and which hopefully will make more sense. Plan to build the aileron is I'm going to trim the 8 ribs at this point here. That bit that I cut off will then be stuck, like you can see there, onto the aileron. I'll then put a piece of flat balsa in front of it, which will build that up. I'll then need to trim again all 8 ribs slightly so that I can then put a piece of flat balsa on the inside of those, so that the aileron then joins up neatly together. Once I've trimmed them down, I'll then glue them in place, and hopefully, again, as I do the pictures, what I just tried to explain will make more sense. To create the slot for the rib on the top wing, I've done it slightly differently. I'm still glued 2 bits of a spare rib onto the wings, but what I've done, if you can see here, is I've actually just carved out or gently filed out a slot so that it can glue either side and be a bit more snug, because it goes up against the spar unlike the other wings. So yep, That's how I've done that, just a little bit of filing and cutting, and now that slots in nicely and it stands upright, so that will fit nicely in with the other two wings. Okay, I'm sure that when I start to edit this video it's probably gone on long enough, so I'm going to finish the wing build here, but as you can see all three wings are now 95% finished, including the lower wing. Obviously the tail pieces I did in the first video. All I need to do now really is secure the ailerons onto the wing, and I'll do it exactly the same way as I've done here, but I'll do that once I've worked out exactly where the servos are going to go, which servos I'm going to use. I'm waiting till the next video because I need to first find out where I'm going to put the receiver, because obviously that will dictate where the wires feed to. As you can see, the struts or the additional pieces I've used are strong enough to hold the main wing strut in place and actually hold the three wings up, so I'm very pleased with that. I will need still to sort out the leading edges, but again, if you've watched in my other videos, I'll be using a file and sanding blocks to shape those, and then it'll be the covering with the rest of the fuselage. So there we go, hope you found that useful. That's all the wing surfaces now complete for the DR1 triplane. I'll move on to the fuselage and the electronics. Thank you very much for watching.